Going to be the first game of the night. Again, huge thank you for joining me here, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Miles Kyalaris, and we are going to be going into the first game, which is going to be MLG Shakuras Plateau. It's going to be Complexity's Gosu user, the new addition to Complexity Gaming's team after graduating from the Complexity Academy, and he's going to be going up against a PsychonautQQ. So a bit of a PvZ here, my favourite matchup on, actually my favourite map for PvZ. So we'll be back in just a second. Okie dokes, ladies and gentlemen, so the first game of the day, we do have Mr. Complexity's Gosu user going to be spawning up in the top left-hand corner as the blue Zergy. Ooh, maybe I have a little bit of lag. No, I think it should be fine. And down to the bottom right-hand corner, we have PsychonautQQ going to be spawning here as the red Protoss. So a little bit of PvZ action. Looks like we already have Pylon going to be going down on this low ground in order to be able to set himself up a little bit of a Forge Fast Expand. Ooh! Okay, so interesting placement over this first Pylon. Normally you will end up see this Pylon actually go down here. However, Mr. Psychonaut going to be walling in at the very top breach of his ramp here with this initial Pylon. And whenever I see a Pylon in these positions as a Zergy boy, I always think to myself, ooh, that's going to be a weak place for a little bit of a Baneling bust. You don't normally see Baneling busts in this matchup. However, you do see one or two players that do make it work, i.e. the July Zergs of the world and things like that. And it's not too hard to make it work if you do see the opportunity like this. Another opportunity is sometimes a Forge. I mean, it is a 3x3 building. However, it does have a slightly less hit points than the typical Gateway or Cybernetics core. So to a certain extent, some people do try to exploit that, but a Pylon is a nice, juicy morsel. Gosu user will come up here, see that Pylon there, and think to himself, that is slightly not in the best place. So, oh, interestingly enough, cancels the Forge and actually goes for a Nexus first. I actually really like that play by Psychonaut. He allowed the drone to actually see the Forge and goes down here with another drone probe and actually goes for the Nexus first. Not too bad a choice. So nice play there by Psychonaut. How much does he see of his opponent's base right now? Okay, so he saw the spawning pool timing, and that's something really important. Goodbye, Mr. Robin. Nice to have you here. So it's really important when you're going for Nexus first to know when this spawning pool is going down. If you see a very, very early spawning pool, then chances are you want that Forge up initially in order to be able to kind of wall this off fully, and then, you know, get the cannon down as quickly as you possibly can do. However, if you see a standard spawning pool timing, you can reactionally kind of cancel the Forge in order to be able to get that Nexus down quickly. Oh, and another Pylon added to this wall. Okay, so Psychonaut, I think, is a Masters player. He had the Archon portrait, so he has a 1,000 wins. I can't imagine he would be anything other than Masters with that Archon portrait. But again, this is really, really weird that you would actually see Pylons used in this wall. Normally you see normally you see 3x3 buildings at the top of this ramp in order to be able to block it off and kind of leave yourself less susceptible to those Baneling busts or even those Roach busts that we see quite a lot sometimes in this match early on. But Gosu user looks like he's going to be playing pretty standard. He is still droning up. He's not throwing any Roach Warren down just yet, and I mean, he could have quite easily done that before. Gosu user saying the wall-in's kind of shaky. Indeed it is, as the Pylons are here. And, you know, he notices it the same as I do. You should see Antigua. Oh god, I know exactly what he means. So he is going to be reinforcing this wall ever so slightly with this Cybernetics core. Meanwhile, Gosu user behind us has been able to drone up relatively well. We do have 23 drones to the 24 probes right now, getting speed out as well. So that is going to allow him to gain even more map control until Mr. PsychonautQQ actually goes for any kind of tech. And every time I read that guy's name, I'm constantly thinking about the Psychonauts game. I don't know if anybody else played the Psychonauts game, but that was sick as... And there we go. Psychonaut's not going to be completely metagaming his opponent here. Going to be throwing down a second cannon at this wall, and that is really, really important. If you go just one cannon, then you are extremely, extremely susceptible to those kind of Roachling all-ins. However, a second cannon can prevent that somewhat. So Psychonaut, meanwhile, will be moving across the map with this initial Zealot. I don't mind this too much. It probably will end up trying to scout out whether the third is here or not. Very, very important to know as a Protoss player, but for now, he's just gonna sit here, which is okay. Just gonna be able to control these watchtowers. Do you have 6 Zerglings? Oh, that's more than 6 Zerglings. That's 7 Zerglings moving out in order to be able to take that guy out, and he will be able to quite convincingly. Oh, I see why it's 7 Zerglings, because he already killed the one. Yeah, I get ya. Good stuff. So, we do have +1 weapons on the way. Sentries along with these 2 extra gas geysers going down. Very, very indicative of a little bit of tech. And as you can see in the main, we already have a second forge and a Twilight Council going down. Okay. None of my friends are alive. Oh god. And then I'm so glad you changed that to awake. That was terrifying. Okay, so we have a little bit of an Overseer coming in. He's going to be able to spot this rather easily. It looks like right now Mr. Psychonaut is actually planning on going some kind of DT play. He's saving up a lot of gas. I don't particularly like the DT option, especially... Okay, so it looks like he was going DTs because he's saved up a lot of gas here. Oh, wait a minute, that's the Zerg. What am I on about? He's still going to have a lot of gas regardless. So we do actually have Blink play on the way. Don't mind that too much. That fast Overseer equals Muters. Indeed it does, as he does already have the 4 gas geysers down and Spire on the way. And Muters on this map can be very, very strong, and against Protoss in general can be ridiculously strong. Thankfully though, he is going for one of the kind of counters, in inverted commas, which is those Blink Stalkers, going to be able to defend these 2 bases relatively easily. And then when it comes to taking a 3rd base, chances are he will probably go to this pocket expansion here as to this expansion here, due to the fact that, you know, it's very, very easy to jump between this base, and this base with Blink Stalkers, as opposed to jumping between these 3 bases. So hopefully that's what we'll see Mr. Psychonaut doing. He's doing a relatively good job of keeping on top of his macro. And he is getting hallucination as well, but meanwhile, Gosu user, oh man, he's double expanding behind this. And to a certain degree, it's not too bad an option. He realizes with this Overseer that his opponent is going for a lot of upgrades. So if he kind of doesn't go for a ridiculous amount of upgrades behind this and just does what he wants, I mean, he can afford these 2 expansions. Also, he's got a lot of map control right now. He's got a lot of map control with these Zerglings, and with these Muters popping out, he's going to increase that map control even more. So we do have an Infestation Pit on the way, as well as a Roach Worm. Lovely, lovely tech options to go for. Plus 2-2 being rushed to ridiculously fast for Psychonauts. He may use this 2-2 in order to be able to secure a 3rd expansion, which is normally what we see out of these type of players. But he is trying to do a little bit of harassment here with these Mutalisks, hiding them in the back, and he was trying to lure the Stalkers to go up to this here, expansion here, but actually did not lure them in the end. So nice blinking, will be able to deal with that aggression quite well. At the same time though, we do have Glial Reconstitution plus 1 weapons on the way for Roaches and the air units. And with the Templar Archives going down, he's going to have the pretty good counter in order to be able to take out that Infestation Pit. He has been able to scout it with these hallucinated Phoenix, and this is something that Grubby kind of subscribes to a lot. And Grubby's PVZ right now is absolutely stellar. If you want to see the evolution of PVZ even, and you want to see exactly where PVZ is going to go, just watch Grubby, because Grubby knows where it's going. He constantly has hallucinated Phoenix over his opponent's base the entire game long, and it can be extremely frustrating for the Zerg to deal with because they can't actually hide anything. So we do have Templar Archives on the way. He is getting that Storm out in order to be able to repel these Mutalisks even easier, in even an easier manner. He is getting an Archon out, which is interesting, and we'll be able to sneak that out via that entrance. Normally when you see Archons on the way and you're on maps like Shattered Temple and things like that, you have like a gateway here and a Cybernetics core here. You can't actually bounce between the 2 bases without actually destroying one of the buildings, because the Archons just don't fit through that little gap. So as we said before, Mr. Psychonaut will be expanding here, due to the fact that this expansion here is a little bit easier to defend against Muters. And since Muters are becoming so predominant in this matchup, look at that shift blinking up in order to be able to defend this main. This is exactly what I was on about at the start of the cast. It makes it a damn sight easier to defend these 3 bases in this triangle formation as opposed to these 3 bases in this line formation, because you'll have to keep your stalkers in this natural for the entire time and blinking down here, going up here in the ramp, and then going back around. It just causes no end of problems. Regardless, he does have Storm out. He is getting +3 out as well for these melee ground units, and he's actually doing a ridiculously good job of upgrading. But the problem for Mr. Psychonauts now is he doesn't have a whole lot of AoE. He only has 1 High Templar out as well as 1 Archon, and Gosu User is actually getting to the point where he's going to be maxed. So he's also establishing a really nice economy behind this, as you can see by that. And he's going to get to the point now where he's going to start wanting to trade. And for the Protoss in this position, when you don't have Colossus out, when you don't have a High Templar count out, it can be very, very difficult in order to be able to repel these attacks and then replenish after it when you don't have the necessary economy. So he will be engaging here. Nice fungal growth goes down on these Blink Stalkers, denying them from actually blinking. Nice Psy Storm actually goes down on the majority of those Mutalisks, but these Roach count might be too much here, as he does have Groove Spines and Burrow on the way, but he might not even need it, as Gosu User is going to be able to crush through this Stalker army. And the problem for Psychonaut is he had a lot of gas invested in those upgrades, and there you go, GG, ladies and gentlemen, as Mr. Gosu User just crushed through his Protoss opponent here and goes on to the next round. So we'll be right back, guys, in just a bit with another game very, very shortly. Don't go anywhere.